Well, let's head straight to the day's market action. It was a strong day for the bulls on the Lal Street as the key indices traded in the green, closing the session with some decent gains. So the Nifty stood out as the outperformer with a sharp rally of 128 points to close above 11,000. The Sensex also saw some strong buying, closing the day with gains of 358 points. Bank stocks gained ahead of the Reserve Bank policy tomorrow. The mid-cap index recovered by about 200 points and closed with minor gains. So strong performance coming in from the markets ahead of the monetary policy. But the other big story, and this one has consumers concerned as well. The telecom regulator has defended the new broadcast tariff regime that kicked in from the 1st of this month. We learned that so far only 30 to 40% of DTH subscribers have migrated to the new plan. TRAI Chairman R.S. Sharma says that the progress so far has been satisfactory. That's not all. He's also quashed a CRISIL report that claims that post the rollout of the new regime, monthly television bills for viewers who opt for the top 10 channels may go up by 25%. Farah Bukwala-Vora joins us now with more. Farah, how has the progress been so far when it comes to migration?
Well, thank you so much, Shireen. First up, let me just take a moment to say that, the new TRAI order came into effect on the 1st of February, and what it attempted to do was to allow consumers to pick the channels that they want to watch either on an a la carte basis or through packs that have been announced by distribution platforms, and make their selection and move into that new regime. Now, what I have picked up from my sources is that as we speak, DTH operators have already successfully migrated 30 to 40% of their subscribers to the new regime, and even as we speak, 10 lakh consumers on a day-to-day basis are moving into the new regime. At the MSO level, nearly 5 to 7 lakh consumers are moving in on a day-to-day basis to the new regime, and with 20 to 30% of their total subscriber base having successfully already done that. My discussions with various people across the media and entertainment sector also seem to suggest that they have decided that somewhere around the middle of February, around 14th of February is when they suppose that they will be able to successfully migrate all their subscribers to the new regime. Now, coming to the second part of this discussion, which is about the rising of cable bills, which has been an intense issue of discussion and scrutiny. In fact, earlier today, R.S. Sharma, as you point out, had held a press conference to address the CRISIL report that in fact went on to suggest that should a consumer choose the top 10 rated channels, his bill would in fact increase by 25%. At that particular press conference, R.S. Sharma presented data that was curated by IndusInd Media and went on to suggest that ARPUs would in fact come down, and they suggested that ARPUs could come down anywhere between 10 to 15% in metros and by 5 to 10% in non-metros. So listen into what R.S. Sharma said at that press conference which was held earlier today.
CRISIL has given this report, and we appreciate the professionalism, and we know that they are a highly professional body. But I think in this particular case, their analysis is not based on correct inputs and assumptions. If you begin with the wrong assumptions or unrealistic assumptions, you are bound to get the results. It's garbage in, garbage out. So if you put in something wrong in the analysis and the part, and the result outcome is also not going to be correct. In Mumbai, the average pre-NTO, pre-new tariff order, was 325 rupees ARPU, which was basically a consumer was on an average paying 325 rupees in Mumbai. Now, post ARPU, those people who have selected this, their consumer price is 271 rupees. In Delhi, it was 303 ARPU. It is now 265.
Well, that's the TRAI chairman saying that the process of migration is moving smoothly and successfully, and also adding that it has in fact become cheaper, not more expensive for consumers after the new tariff guidelines have kicked in from the 1st of February. Winsley Fernandez, the CEO of IndusInd Media and Communications, with us here. According to their report, with the new norms, a consumer staying in Mumbai could save 54 rupees on a monthly basis, which is pretty much what the TRAI chief there was pointing out. In Delhi, they're expected to save save 38 rupees. Ramesh K. Vaidyanathan, founder and managing partner of Advaya Legal, also here with us. He's been instrumental in advising corporates on the impact of the new tariff order and on their own business. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. We also did try to get CRISIL onto the program, but we haven't been able to do so, particularly scathing remarks coming in there from the TRAI chief. The CRISIL report basically says that monthly television bills for most subscribers are likely to go up, especially if they do opt for the top 10 channels by viewership. Gentlemen, let me start by asking you, and Ramesh, I'll start by asking you about what you make. You know, we were live with the press conference of the TRAI chairman, and I can see at last count there are about 98 comments that have come in on our social media page, and most seem to suggest that it has become costlier. Some say that, look, our service providers are not clarifying, they're not answering our phone calls, there is confusion. Some suggest that costs have gone up for the set-top box in itself. So, you know, what is the feedback that you're getting from the ground at this point in time?
Thank you, Shireen. I think the chairman went a bit overboard, if you ask me, because I think in his over-enthusiasm to defend what he has rolled out, and I can understand because he's fought through a long legal battle to get this point. I think we have to allow it some more time before before things pan out. The feedback I have got from the market and some of our clients is that it's just too early to speak anything about it. There could eventually be, if there is an informed choice, there's greater transparency, which is what is the objective. We have to wait for the market to play out. I think for the chairman to roll out some statistics at this point seems a bit over anxious in my view.
Okay, I think the statistics come from IndusInd Media and Communications. Vinsley Fernandez with us, the CEO of IndusInd Media and Communications. And Vinsley, this is the argument that people are making that, look, what is the basis for these numbers that have been thrown up? Because this new tariff migration has only happened from the 1st of February. Isn't it a bit premature to suggest that the average ARPU is down by 50 rupees or 60 rupees, whether it's Mumbai or Delhi?
Okay, Shireen, thanks for having me, first of all. And I think data is data, irrespective of whether it's preliminary or otherwise. We've commenced migration from the 1st, so all the data that we're actually representing is realistic data. This is not analysis, this is not conjecture, this is not assumptions, and this is not estimations. As you rightly mentioned, we've started converting customers or migrating customers to the NTO compliant packages from the 1st. And what we're getting results from the ground, and don't forget, we're in the trenches, right? We're actually dealing with the consumers on a day-to-day basis. We're realizing that consumers are exercising their right to choose their packages. And the packages that they've selected, which is something that you can go onto our website and have a look at, and every other MSO has, the packages that they've selected are actually cheaper than what they were paying earlier. So, and I'll give you some examples, right? India is not all about Mumbai and Delhi. India is also way outside of the cities. So when you look at the service that we have as IndusInd Media, we have a cable business, which is in digital, and we have a hits business, which is available all across places, including Cargill, Little Andamans, etc. A lot of consumers there are choosing to go with an FTA package, a free-to-air package, and selecting 1 or 2 pay packages. Now that's an interesting trend, because that is not something that they could do earlier, right? But because of the new regulatory framework coming in, they now have the right to choose it. And Shireen, I want to draw your attention to one thing. If you recall, that was the mandate of DD Free Dish, right? The reason why DD Free Dish has over 22 million consumers is there's a socio-economic or a segment, market segment, which does not want to necessarily pay, who wants their pricing to come down. So when we've done a mapping across markets of actual consumers who have been converted, this is what we've ended up with in terms of data. Now, is it preliminary?
So since you're raising the issue of the FTA channels, here's a comment that's come in on our social media page responding exactly to that, saying nonsense, freedom of choice of all DD channels, and some random channels are added in the first 100, plus the cost is increased the cost is increased compared to the previous pack.
Okay. So here's again where there was, and like I said, I think it's a matter of communication. the TRAI regulations, the new regulatory framework, Shireen, allows you to even pick up your FTA channels. The only compulsion that consumers have, and which is rightly so, is the 26 mandatory DD channels. The remaining channels in that first 100 bouquet can be a mix of pay and FTA, and it can be based on the selection of a consumer. It doesn't have to be driven by the DPO. In fact, the chairman TRAI has been very clear with us, and so has everyone else, that we need to be able to give the consumer choice. And that's what's happening. You're seeing consumers picking, in the Northeast, picking more English free-to-air channels. In the South, in Tamil Nadu, for instance, obviously they're picking up Tamil free-to-air channels. So I think it's a question of, has the message gone out all the way and been communicated clearly and, crystal clear? It's going to settle down. I think it's early days, and as they say, right, water finds its own level. We're seeing a gradual settling in, Sorry, I hope that answered.
I do agree with you there, but Ramesh, I do agree with you that I think to a large extent it is also a communication issue, because look, I mean, we work in this business, and even I had to sort of figure out which package we are part of. Can I buy CNBC TV 18 a la carte for 4 rupees or not? So I would imagine that communication is an issue. Ramesh, and the assumption was that could there be a stay? Could there be more leeway, more flexibility as far as the implementation of the guidelines were concerned? And maybe broadcasters as well as service providers didn't do a good enough job of communicating. But the consumer now seems to be caught in a bind and some confusion. So, do you believe that over the next few weeks we will see this evening itself out?
Yeah, I agree with you, Shireen, because if you look at it now, it's utter chaos, and I don't quite share the enthusiasm of the my fellow speaker, because if you look at, I think they could have done a lot more in terms of giving more visibility to what's going to happen, training people on what can be done, allowing some kind of a transitionary period. For example, if my own television at home is completely blacked out, so I don't know, what's the logic?
But
where
why
am I
is it blacked out?
And,
because
so
you haven't migrated, and that's why it's blacked out.
No, so I did migrate a week back, or as soon as it started. But for the last 2 days, I'm not able to kickstart my channel. So I don't know what's the problem. But I think to say that everything is hunky dory and we've rolled out all successfully, I won't quite agree with this. And we have to see how things pan out.
No, I think you need to take those claims have to be taken with some degree of proportion. But Wensley, on this issue, because as Advaya was pointing out, he's migrated, but he hasn't been getting his television is a black screen at this point in time for the last 2 days. Several other people, again on our social media case, also saying, one gentleman saying that my television is off for the last 8 days. What exactly is the problem there? If you've migrated, then why no service?
Okay, sorry. I'll tell you, and this is kind of a challenge that we're all facing in the industry. We're 180 television households. We're talking about migrating close to 120 million primary points over the next, from 1st of Feb to the 14th of Feb. Of course, we're going to have hiccups. There's no question about it. But I think we're seeing already, people doing close to 1 million customers of transition a day. Why is there a blackout? That is a cause for concern, because as per what even the TRAI has advised us, that digital platform operators should not be blacking out customers. And if that is happening, that is genuinely, I say this with complete confidence, that is genuinely most unfortunate, because either we have created, especially for consumers, we've even created like a intermediate migration pack. So in case if there are consumers that, sorry, my earpiece keeps on. In case there are consumers who have chosen a particular package and who have not chosen a particular package, there is an intermediate pack, or what we term as a BFP, best fit pack. That means if a consumer has been paying 300 rupees and getting a whole bunch of channels, special packages have been created, Shireen, for consumers like those. So there is no inconvenience. The one clear mandate from TRAI is that there must be no inconvenience to the consumer at any level and at any point in time.
No, but
so this is unfortunate. I'm not defending that. But like I said, I'm seeing that more.
But you acknowledge the fact that you're seeing this happen. You're acknowledging the fact that there are, this is not a one-off. Ramesh is not the only one who's being singled out. You are hearing cases of these blackouts.
So let me put it to you slightly differently. Some MSOs, the smaller MSOs, have chosen various models to transition their customers. And I'll give you an example. So there is a small MSO in Jharkhand with just about 50,000 customers. He's had a challenge of getting his customers to come in and agree to a new package, etc. So he's decided to basically do a downgrade. So the first couple of days he did a downgrade of certain pay channels. The second day he did a further downgrade. The third day he decided to black out the pay channels, right? And retain the FTA channels to convince or push his customer. Like I said, Shireen, you're talking about 120 million primary points. You know, everyone's trying to work out different models, Shireen, to get that on board.
Sure, sure. No, I get that. And one of the other recurring comments that's coming in is the difference between the pricing for SD channels and HD channels, which now consumers are telling us on social media has gone up quite significantly. So that perhaps is going to be something to watch out for. But Ramesh, you know, and this was a big concern as we were looking at this migration. What happens to the MSOs? And clearly the MSOs are not on board, as we've just heard there from Wensley as well. And that will be a problem as far as this migration is concerned.
Yeah, because I think, MSOs and the local cable operators are all at loggerheads now, because there are going to be multiple, legal challenges that are going to spring up in different courts. So I think the big thing is that whether what the TRAI is looking to implement, there is a buy-in from all stakeholders. I think unfortunately no, and that's the reason why I buy the point that such a large-scale migration will take time. But when you're, for example, deciding revenue share, I mean, it's one way it's good that you're actually every person in the chain is actually now being told what is your share of the revenue. But at the same time, how are you assuring that he's not playing mischief? So if he's unhappy with his level of return, so I think that's the area where we could have done a lot more work. And brought more and more buy-in from people before rolling this out. So I think that's where we are seeing these glitches, in my view.
Come in here and may I?
That these.
Shireen,
Wensley, we're running out of time very quickly.
Shireen, very quick
go ahead.
One is, I don't think for a moment that the larger MSOs are not on board. Every single MSO has been working and developed consumer apps, developed portals, developed packages. There's been ground teams. We've gone out and recruited another 1,100 people across the country. I don't think any MSO is not on board. And I speak this because I smell the battle in the trenches, right? That's where I work. I don't work in an office. I work in the trenches with the troops. And no, I'm serious. And that's the reason, that's why it's so important to hear my viewpoint, is that I do not believe for a moment that MSOs are ill-prepared. They are prepared. It is the scale and magnitude which requires appropriate time to manage the transition. In managing the transition, there are bound to be a couple of slips that are going to happen. That's never going to change. Then I come to the LCO, the LMO.
Gentlemen,
Sorry, gone. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So then I come to
we've got several questions coming in.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just interrupting you, Wensley, because we're getting several questions coming in. Vineet Goyal live right now on our social media page, asking a question which I think a lot of consumers are asking. What about multi-TV connection tariffs? Right.
So again, when it comes to multi-connection, multi-TV rooms, there is a very clear mandate. And that is actually each MSO or DPO, I'd rather use DPO because it covers DTH and MSOs, have their own model and are allowed to work within the framework of the tariff order. So while you may pay content, I'll give you the example of my place at home, right? And I won't name the DTH connection, but I have 2 DTH connections as well. So the first DTH connection, the second one, they said, listen, you can take your content, but the NCF, we're going to give you a discount on the NCF. So that is absolutely permissible. And I think everyone's working on differentiated models. And I'll tell you why they need to work on differentiated models. Because even the first TV, second TV, third TV, has some amount of segmentation, Shireen. You've got guest houses, you've got larger apartments, you've got resident housing complexes where there are television sets across, the clubhouse, the pool house, etc., etc. So I think everyone's carving out a very clear strategy. Is it going to get leveled out? Of course, I think everyone's worked out their own business model, because they know one is, of course, content is a pass-through, but they're also working out how can I incentivize the second television set and the third television set. And I would advise anyone to get in touch with their last mile owner or their DPO, or whether DTH or cable, to be able to ensure that they get to know what they're doing on this model.
Well, I hope that there is transparency there, because as you pointed out, flexibility often means and discretion often means that the consumer might not necessarily get the best deal, but we hope that that will be addressed as well. We could have continued because, as I said, lots of questions pouring in on our social media pages on the new TRAI tariff regime and what it means for television viewing. Remember, even as far as ratings are concerned, there's going to be a blackout of ratings also on account of this migration. But Ramesh Vaidyanathan and Winsley Fernandez, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 with your take on the new migration rules and the impact on TV viewing. Well, the Reserve Bank will announce its 6th bi-monthly monetary policy statement tomorrow. The MPC meeting entered its second day today, and this will be Governor Shaktikanta Das's first policy announcement after he took charge in December. The last 3 policies have maintained the status quo on the repo rate. Will it be any different this time around? A majority don't seem to think so. Ritu Singh is here with the CNBC TV 18 poll.
Well, you know, logic demands that when you have a budget which promises to boost consumption, the Reserve Bank of India should go into a tightening mode. But that is not something that we should see from the Reserve Bank of India, given how benign inflation has been in the last few months. So 90% of the respondents that we actually polled believe that it will be a status quo policy, as the RBI will refrain from a cut also this time around, given some of the fiscal pressures and the fact that crude prices have been inching up. But there is 100% of the economists that we polled expect a change in the stance of the RBI from calibrated tightening to at least neutral, which will then take them to further rate cuts. And 50% expect at least one, 25 basis point rate cut in this entire calendar year, and another 50% expect 2 rate cuts of 25 basis points each until December. No action is expected as far as the CRR tool is concerned. Economists don't really expect RBI to use this just yet. On the macro parameters, GDP forecast is largely expected to remain unchanged by 60% of those we polled at 7.4% for this financial year. And for the first half of next year, where RBI pegged it at 7.5%, that, many expect will be lowered, given that the government itself is also now projecting a 7.5% growth for FY20. And the first half is typically expected to be slightly slower, and therefore that revision is expected. Now, on the CPI front, there have been 6 revisions in the last 1 year from RBI. This time around, the majority expected to remain unchanged, at least as far as the second half projection for this financial year is concerned. For the first half of next year, 80% are expecting that will also be left unchanged as the RBI, watches for more data that will emerge. The tone of the policy, of course, now, that inflation has been below about 2.19% in the last reading, below 4% for several months in a row. They do expect RBI to sound more dovish, but yes, overall, it will be an important statement to watch out for also, because it is Shaktikanta Das's maiden policy.
It is his maiden policy, and unanimous view that it is going to be a change in stance to neutral, but divisions on whether there will be a 25 basis point rate cut announced. Industry, by the way, is hoping for much more. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of What's Up. Thanks very much for watching. Next up on markets today, a strong day for the bulls on Dalal Street. The key indices traded in the green, with the sessions closing with decent gains. The Nifty stood out as the outperformer. Sharp rally of 128 points. The Sensex also saw strong buyings with gain of 358 points. I'll see you again in 30 minutes on India Business Hour.